Okay, I see a few people starting to jump in right away here. As always, open live forum. So if anybody has questions, you get those in right away. If not, I'm going to give a moment here and I'll randomly drone on about whatever comes up to my mind while I wait for questions. But again, anybody with questions, get those in right away, please. So again, folks, open live forum. If you have any questions, get those in for me. As I always say, I don't have pre-done content on this, right? This is an open forum meant for you folks to come in, ask your questions on software. Clearly, nobody has any questions right now, so we're going to hang out and we'll hang tight. Like I said, I don't do pre-done content here. The entire purpose of this is for you folks to come and ask questions about the software. Of course, just randomly and aimlessly discuss the overall market, I suppose. And we can see here, still not an all clear here. We had some follow-through days last week, but now this week we're starting to get some of that back. Volatility definitely way down. Volume really down at this point compared to what it had been. So could be just the market is taking a moment to digest everything. Wait for the next stuff to come through here. So we'll see how that all goes. But for the moment, we can see gap down today. Weakness trying to fill that gap at this point. So, all right, Dylan, any way to reorder strategies in Broker Plus, relocate their position? You'd have to delete and put them back in again. There's no way to move them up or down the list. So you can delete them and then put them back in the order that you want. That would be the only way to do that. Can you use trade ideas for automatic support and resistance? Nope, there's no automatic support and resistance. So you got to manually draw those on the chart yourself. Drawing tools giving me a hard time with it. You can draw those here on the chart yourself, move them around, expand them, stuff like that. But no way to auto draw them, unfortunately. Sorry. I already have attempted to do my own, but how would you do an alert window for stocks trading at the high of the 60-minute opening range? So we only have opening range filters. We don't have opening range alerts. We don't have opening range filters. So that'd be the only thing that you could do at this point. At that point, is sorry, the software's being ultra slow right now. Or configure window. You can just scan for opening range breaks or breakdowns. Like that here. So you got the opening range breakout or breakdown. That's really all you can scan for at this point. We don't have a filter to do that there, Jason. And Chris, I do. Sorry, I haven't opened my personal box today. I've been really bogged down with support here. This time of year, it gets a little tougher for me to do those. My personal schedule is at its max right now, and I don't really do them during company time. So give me a little bit to sort through the rest of what I got going on trade ideas wise today, and then I will get back to you about the possibility of a one-on-one. And just for personal context, this time of year, I help run little league in the town that I'm in, and I coach on top of that. And this is our extreme busy season right now, so it kind of takes me out of a lot of extracurricular activities outside of that. I didn't think of that, Pepe, sorting that way, right? There's no way to like individually order them. It's just going to order them alphabetic and numerically with that. But yeah, good call on that. Perfect Circle, what's up? Yeah, thanks. Good luck with the season. We're going to have to build an arc for this season. We've done nothing but cancel games at this point. So my job is rescheduling games just to cancel them again right now. Across the entire league. Anyways, nothing to do with trade ideas. So. Again, folks have questions on software. Don't be shy. Please get those questions in for me. So yeah, anyways, got the SPY chart up there. So that's what we got going with the SPY chart. We're still, in a downtrend for the time being. Let's see if it can't, really break that. I mentioned this. I thought 550 would be more of a magnet than a challenge. I think it's 560. It looks like it's more of a magnet than a challenge right now than 550, but we'll see how it ends up playing out. this get in my list? It's strange. I got this TEC ETF in my list. I don't ever remember putting it on there. I don't ever remember looking at this in my entire life. Sector analysis personal. Huh. I do not remember ever in my entire life seeing this. I've had this list for a very, very, very long time. Mandela effect. So again, anybody with questions, please don't be shy. First, don't be sorry. That's what we're here for, to help answer questions. Unfortunately, with that question, I don't really have much of an answer. I don't use Holly on the long-term side of things at all. I don't use her a ton on the short-term side of things, to be honest, as well. Most of what she does doesn't fit what I do as a trader. I'll also say this. These strategies that you see here, what you see from topping formation today, the next time topping formation comes and is a selected strategy will not be the same topping formation as today. It will have gone through back testing and optimization processes that will change the filters within it and the values of those filters, adding, subtracting, altering, so on and so forth. So it's hard to say something does anything historically when it consistently changes, right? I would say that likely Holy Grail. I don't like the fact that we still have segments in any way, but we do, so it is what it is. Because there used to be Holy Grail 2.0 and Neo. Holly 2.0 was crushed into Holy Grail long, long ago. Holly Neo remains because there's some things that happen in the backtesting and optimization that do not apply to Holly Neo. For example, the relative volume never changes. So I would think the Holy Grail stuff would be, take this with a grain of salt, better look long-term, because Holly Neo relies on very high relative volumes, which means usually the stock is just kind of more in play today. It's not always the case. Whereas Holy Grail doesn't necessarily need high relative volumes to get the alert coming in. So that's, you know, my thought process behind that. As far as that goes. Outside of that, the only thing I would do, I would treat Holly long-term like I would one of my own top lists that I use for swing trading, is I just go chart by chart and what makes sense for my trading plan, my risk management, so on and so forth, right? You know, so all my personal stuff, you know, if something's been in a long-term downtrend, it's, you know, nearly automatically disqualified. You know, the only thing I would ever not automatically disqualify something on a long-term downtrend is if it had been in a downtrend and now it's running sideways and it's shown some life and it isn't making, you know, lower lows and lower highs anymore. You know, something could still technically be, you know, haven't been downtrending, but if it stopped and ran sideways, like it would lead me to an extra look at it, but it's a near automatic disqualification. So just as an example, so the things that I'd be looking at as far as using the long-term Holly is I would use it like any other scan and start applying my own everything to it at that point. Let me know, Daniel, if that makes sense. If you have other questions, something else to elaborate on. And again, don't be sorry asking questions. That's why we're here. It's really boring when nobody asks any questions in this. Adam, very excited about Trade Ideas Money Machine being released for second wave. How much do you use? Nobody here is using the money machine. It's not released to anybody. Dan, our CEO, is the only one playing around with it at this point. We have not tested it internally outside. I don't even know how much of what he's doing is testing versus playing around with it. Some things that I'd like to throw out there about the money machine. There's not going to be some strategy that exists that you just plug it in and it's going to make you rich. The money machine strategies are going to be things you're going to need to create and test them in simulation and see how they work, make the adjustments afterwards, and so on and so forth. So, the big highlight of the money machine to me is the dynamic way that it can enter and exit trades that don't exist in other softwares right now. One of those real big dynamics is the fact that you can use the trade wave and semi-automate the trade wave. I think that is going to be I do believe that will be a game changer, but it's still a lot of unknown territory as far as that goes. So, it's still going to require you to understand, trading and trading mechanics and things of that nature. But again, it's going to offer things that just don't exist in other places and allow for kind of dynamic stops, trailing stops, or let's call them alternate to trailing stops, like the trade wave. And it will, it's going to allow for a lot of things that just simply don't exist in other ways out there for folks to do things that they have had in their brains, but the technology for it, at least on the retail side of things, did not exist. Absolutely. There will never, and there are no hills I'm willing to die on, but this is about as close as a hill I'm willing to die on. There will never exist something that a regular person off the street could just take it, press play, and have it make them money in the market. Nothing like that will ever exist. Ever, 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 ever. There will always be the necessity to have some knowledge on trading and market mechanics and so on and so forth. Tool like ours will cut down on A, learning curves, and B, how much you actually need to know without any question. But there's still, no way to do it without, the average person couldn't just look at the Holly trades today. Now they've given some back over the last little bit, but, very well today. But the average person, they see all this, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They click on a chart and now what, right? You still have to have some knowledge. You still have to have some understanding of candlestick charting and technical analysis. All right, Daniel, glad you found that helpful. And again, don't be shy on the questions, like I said. Yeah, you can. So you can definitely back test an individual stock. You just have to do it through an alert window and with the data points that exist. So we take a alert window here, right? And the first thing I could do is, let's just say I wanted to back test Apple only, right? So I come to symbols list on the tab there, click on all symbols and go to single symbol, Apple, right? So there's Apple, and now I can build it out from here. You still have to work from within this. Generally speaking, when you're back testing, I would highly recommend using only one alert for back testing. All right. I would almost go as far as to say using two alerts is counterproductive and harmful, actually. You should build strategy. When you're thinking of a strategy like this, you build the strategy on its own, right? And if you have a second idea for a strategy, build that out on its own. And then you would use the combination of filters that you'd want to use from there. Obviously, you would use multiple filters. And just remember, when you back test, you cannot back test today, right? You can't back test today until tomorrow, because all the data still has to come in, then it has to digest and all that. So we do it all through an overnight process that doesn't begin until after the post-market closes. And then think about, we have 500 data points here for all that data to go through our hopper, essentially. So, but yep, you can absolutely do that. You could even backtest a basket of stocks, right? You can create a symbols list. All right, so let's go over here, and if you go tools, symbols list, and you could create a list, and my back test list, or whatever you want to call it, right? Press OK. It's going to be alphabetical, so that's going to be up here, my back test list, and then you start adding whatever symbols you want. And then it would look at just those symbols. And again, it would only backtest data from yesterday and back about 60 days, give or take, depending on market holidays. I think we're at I think we're at 64 backtest days right now. We haven't had many market holidays. When we start to come in and out of November, December, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, all that stuff, that puts a President's Day, that puts a heavy impact on the back testing, that it makes a number of days disappear. So yeah, we're out at 64 right now. Probably sometime in the summer, this will get all the way up to 66 or 67 days. And then once we start hitting more market holidays again, you'll see it take a dive down a few days. Yeah, one alert at a time. Obviously you want multiple filters, but definitely just one alert at a time. Some other things, if you don't know, for the back tester, I want to say this should be common sense necessarily, but there's got to be limits placed on things, right? And so since we only go back that 60 some odd days, we're to back test a strategy, and it was like just completely wide open, and all these days, and it just like banging 1 million alerts a day. The back test is only going to show, I think, 6,400 max trades. It can't go over that, even if there was. And because of that, it puts a limit on how many simulated trades you can actually put through in a day as well. I believe it's capped at 100 a day, so that over 64 days, you get 6,400 essentially. So like you can see the total trades there. The max you can get to that, I believe, is 64. Maybe it's 6,200. I can't remember what it is now, but whatever it is, if you divide it by 100, it was based on the back tester, that kind of being the max amount of days when that was created. The other thing I tell people is we're retail software. Like if someone really wants to test the limits of the software, they're going to find them. Not going to be that hard, to be honest, right? We're not some huge hedge fund gurus, putting $30 million of R&D in this a month or something like that, right? We're not VC funded or any of that stuff like that. Everything that we do is, through the revenues that we take in. We're still actually a quite small company, not even relatively small company. We're a very small company. Yeah, no, we take feedback, feature requests, and all those things like that. Some things we can implement, some things we can implement sooner than others, some things we can't implement. But, always good to get the feedback. Any of those emails that come in, we mark them as such feature request and put them into a document, we'll call it. And, it just depends on how many people are asking for something, the logistics of how it can or cannot be done, those things like that, on what does or doesn't get made. And we get a lot of features where people just have individual stuff that they want that's very personalized to them. Those are things, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to accommodate. I will say there are things that are requested that I think we should have and we don't, but I don't get to make those decisions. Nope, just the US stock market. No crypto, no options chains, futures, or anything like that. We do have some options data points for scan building. It's 6 options filters based on volume. So if you come into the configure your scan, search terms, type options, you get all 6 of those options for, so you can scan for stocks that are optionable, and if they have some kind of volume that interests you, puts, calls, put call ratio, X amount of contracts traded on a day, stuff like that. Then you can find stocks that are optionable that way, and then look up the chains within your broker. And the only thing crypto wise is crypto related stocks. So like you got your Mara, for example, or Riot. Those are just 2 off the top of my head. I know there's a whole lot more. And you could also, any of the Bitcoin ETFs that are out there. I don't know if there's any other ETFs that really represent any cryptocurrencies. Thanks, Daniel. I appreciate that. We appreciate that. It's tough, I wish that we had more, a larger team on the support side to kind of do more one-on-one stuff or maybe group stuff. But we don't, and that's all there is to it. So I'll also say in the past, 3 different times over the last 5 years, I created some Zoom webinars where I allowed people to come in and open up their mic and things like that. And each time I ran it for about 4 to 5 months, and almost nobody came in. And so I would sit there for hours a day with a Zoom room open and really nobody coming in. And so I figured 3 strikes and you're out. That's it. And it wasn't a very good use of my time whatsoever. I wasn't helping anybody because really nobody was coming, and it left me tied, having to have it open since it was advertised. And so it really prevented me from doing other work around here. So I decided tried it 3 times, didn't work all 3 times. So time to move on. And that's where we get. I need a Trump tweet scan, right? What else? What else is doing right here? What else? What else? Don't be shy, folks. Keep them coming. Keep them coming on the questions. Yeah, you know what it was is I had, 1 or 2 people would come in. They'd come in for a day or 2, and then they got everything they needed and they were gone. And then like I didn't see anybody for 3 or 4 days in a row again. And then I'm stuck for hours every day. Like I can't start any other projects or do anything else because I've got to be locked into that room for anybody coming in, but with nobody coming in. So, yeah, we have, there's a live traders room with Barry. Barry can answer, most stuff. The only stuff Barry's not, I'll say the most up to speed on, I guess, is, some of the more advanced back testing stuff and more advanced stuff in Brokerage Plus. He doesn't use any of those things and hasn't. The back testing hasn't done forever, and he's never used Brokerage Plus outside of the simulator. So, but we have this for that. We got some videos on it, got the user guide, and, usually that gets us there for a lot of people, not everybody, but thus is the world. So again, don't be shy. If anybody got questions for me, please get those in. I will shut down at about 12:55 Eastern today. Have a 1 o'clock meeting. So give myself a moment to adjust. I'll shut down at about 12:55. So don't delay on those questions. Get them in sooner the better. What information is TradeWave giving you? Can it be used for? Yes, it's a trend indicator is exactly what it is. And it's a trend change finder, let's call it. It's an EMA cloud crossover. It's an EMA cloud with a crossover. So we can see, you know, the blue is when we're looking to uptrend. Orange is when we're in the downtrend. And when it looks like the trend is changing with the buys or the sells. You can technically mess around with the settings on it. If you click over here and you click those three dots, let me get rid of all those drawings right there. Fast EMA is 8, slow EMA is 9. So you could change these around a little bit. My recommendation is not to do that unless you have a reason to do it, right? You can change some of the colors on this stuff. You can see more than the last couple of buy, sell flags if you want, you know, things of that nature. And you could always reset the whole thing too. But just trend following, same as the go, no go here, trying to find trends and changes in trends. And then, you know, we have the 3 scans on it, 5-minute, daily, weekly for the TradeWave. Those run through the Market Explorer tech, which is a completely different set of tech and data and formulas than alert windows and top lists. It works. It's completely different. And that's why, unfortunately, there is no changing or editing on that. You know, we do it on our end and then push them out to users from there. And check this out here. What happened with HIMS? We were talking about this yesterday. Made a nice move off that pullback that it had. And I wouldn't even call it a pullback. I mean, that thing just really unraveled. Take your time, chart. Take your time. It's not like time matters in trading, right? So yeah, I mean, this thing really unraveled and made a real big pop. Had earnings after hours yesterday. Clearly, the start of those earnings on the open here was very negative, and then it just boomed afterwards. And then a short was called here. Looked real good. Bounced, and you know, struggling now at this level. So we'll see overall a very positive reaction for HIMS earnings, though. So that was a heck of a call there, actually. Michael, welcome. Better late than never, right? So TradeWave, to access that, what you're going to want to do is you got a chart here, and right-click that chart. Make sure that Use Browser Interface is checked. You need to see a check mark there. If you don't see a check mark, go ahead and click there to get the check mark in. Once you do that, you're going to see this FX in the top left corner there. You're going to go ahead and click that FX. and then you'll get the trade wave to click that on there. And that's really that simple. As far as accessing the 3 trade wave scans, you go to New on the menu bar, look for Market Explorer. You get a window that looks like that, and then go ahead and right click, select strategy, and you'll find the trade wave there, and you got daily, weekly, and 5-minute buys. And that's the trick with the trade wave. Here's a video you can reference later as well if you need for the trade wave. Anybody that wants. There you go. Adam, you're welcome. You're welcome. Michael, let me know if that all made sense as far as the trade wave goes. If you need me to go back over anything, you have questions on anything I did go over, any other general questions, don't be shy on those. And so it looks like Holly is doing a lot of her work from the short side today, her positive work. No release date on the money machine. No release date on wave 2. No release date on the money machine. It was close in December. It was close in January. It was close in February. It was close in March. It was close in April. It's now close in May. So there's no date. Sorry. I couldn't even say, 2 weeks, a month, a year. I won't personally put any kind of time frame on it. Thanks, appreciate that. I'm a new user and blown away at the power of the software. Taking forever to understand all the ways to use it. Yeah, Michael, you don't have to worry about all the ways to use it. You got to figure out what you want from the software, right? Which could take a while because you don't know what. A lot of times you're not going to know what you want from the software till you know what kind of trader you are. A lot of people come in here with the mindset, I want to be a day trader and all this stuff like that. And then, someone like myself learned that day trading isn't for me. I'm not a very good day trader. It's just that simple. I'm a better swing trader, and that wasn't what I wanted to hear or feel or think or do, but that's the way life goes. And that was what I had to accept. So, I only know as much of the software as I do because I have to. I've also tried a lot of different things through the software over the years before settling on probably being one of the most simplistic swing traders that are out there. And when I say simplistic, also a lot of room for my improvement for me. Always a lot of room for improvement. But here we are. What exactly is the money machine, and what does it do? The money machine it's going to be an add-on to premium, and it's essentially going to give a dynamic way to automate strategies through top lists, basically. And it'll add dynamic ways to enter and exit stocks that don't exist in regular market ordering technology, essentially. It'll directly connect to IBKR, E-Trade, and Alpaca for now as 3 brokers for options. And there'll just be different ways. It's kind of hard to explain without having what the settings there, but there's a lot of settings within it that you'll be able to create a strategy, test it in paper trading for a while, and see how it runs or doesn't run. The typical way to automate right now, the only way to automate right now is through alert windows, where you create an alert window, back test and optimize it, and you have to work with strict market mechanics of how orders can go in and go out, and what type of orders can go in and out, and so on and so forth. The trade wave will be much more dynamic. Just as one example, you'll be able to use the money machine, it'll be much more dynamic in one way that'll be dynamic. So you could use the trade wave buy and sell signals to exit and enter trades. That's not something that currently exists as far as retail trading goes right now. So that's the short and skinny of it there, Jay. No, nothing like that, Daniel. Sorry. We don't have a way to say a stock has touched a certain area any amount of times before going through. The closest thing that you could get to something like that would be the crossed above resistance alerts. So let me bring up an alert window here. So this alert, so you have the confirmed and non-confirmed. And this essentially there's an algorithm that's going to look back and it's going to say, all right, this area, here's an example. This area was resistance, and now the stock is crossed above it. And then you can add hours of trading where it has to look back a minimum number of hours of trading for it to consider it resistance, right? Versus if something, the algo saw it as resistance over the last 20 minutes, well, you say, well, that's not a significant amount of time to be resistance. I want it over 5 hours, for example, something like that. So you then, add that alert, and then you can put the alert filter value in there if you wanted in that regard. That'd be really the closest thing. I mean, there's some other types of crosses and channel breakouts and breakdowns and things like that. Let me close that out like that and widen this out that you may want to give a look to. Let me see, what am I looking for? I don't think the consolidation alert is what you really want on that, but never know. You got these channel breakout and breakdowns, consolidation breakout and breakdowns on some different time frames there as well. You have cross below support as well if you're going to the short side of things. Those are the big ones I'd be pointing you towards. I don't know if there's anything else candle pattern wise here that really makes sense for you. MACD, Pearson bottom line. Yeah, I don't think any of these other ones really would pertain to that at all. Yeah, no. So that would be where I'd have to point you to there, Daniel. Those items there. You cannot add it to standard. It'll only be available as an add-on to premium. As it stands right now, it looks to be a $5,000 a year add-on to premium. I don't know that will hold at that price or not, but that's what we have on the, that's what, management team had decided, and it's somewhere on our website on there. And yet, like Pepe said, our CEO, Dan, he does Wednesdays at noon Eastern. So feel free to join him tomorrow at noon and ask him all the questions that you have about it. He's always going to have the latest and greatest information as far as that all goes. And as far as the testing and stuff goes of it right now, he is really the only one that has the full access to it currently. If I understand correctly, but don't hold me to this. If you try to hold me to this, I will tell you you're a liar. The next phases, when releases happen, there is absolutely no date for any of this. It is not tomorrow, next week, or 5 years from now. There's no date. But from my understanding is that anybody with premium will at some point get a simulated version of the automation to test. And then we will start to roll, and that'll get rolled out in phases. And then we will start to roll out to the people that were on the first list, live trading. And then a second list will come into play afterwards. There is no timetable for any of that, though. Well, it is the hope of the management team here that $5,000 a year will be nothing in compared to what people are able to leverage making from it. You know, I don't have much to go on right now as far as the testing and the profitability of it at this point. So the only thing I can do is deliver the information that was given to me and pass it along to you all. So let's see, we're at 12:48. I got a couple of minutes here before I have to run into a meeting. So again, if anybody has questions, don't be shy. Get those in now. Don't delay, because I do have to take off promptly in 6 minutes and change. Of course, Mark, of course, absolutely. VIPS, it's a Chinese stock. I feel like the stock's always around this price. I've seen the stock for, I gotta be like 7-8 years now. Every time it starts to get going, it comes back down. Comes back down, gets going again. Pretty clear to see here. Comes back down, gets going. Comes back down, gets going. Come back down, starting to go. Very interesting. Next live Q&A will be tomorrow. So we do this every day, every market day. We do this every market day at noon Eastern. Wednesdays are a little different because our CEO, Dan, comes and does it. Usually he has a bit more prepared. Let me rephrase that. He has things that he prepares that he wants to go over. He does take questions, usually more towards the end. We'll try to get to them obviously during, but he's usually got a handful of things he's trying to showcase and go over during the hour before he really starts to unload on the questions for you all. But Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday is open forum like this. We come with no pre-done content. Well, at least I come with no pre-done content. I don't think Steve or Andy have anything really pre-done. They probably maybe have something in their mind that if nobody's asking questions about, they want to talk about and go over. But we're not writing up some presentation each day to do these. This is really meant to be open forum. Let you folks come in here, ask the questions that you need answers to get you going in the direction of the software that's most important for yourselves. So another couple of minutes here before I wrap up. Absolutely, Daniel. Like I said, happy to do this. I very much, as long as there's folks asking questions in this live stream, I very much enjoy doing it. When it's when no one's asking questions, it comes a bit tedious. There's only, I have this opinion about, people's market recaps over and over. We could bring up a SPY chart every day, but like, how much is there to go over day to day? You have some days here where weeks or months happen in a day, in a couple of days. And then you have stuff like this where you have weeks go by and you only have a day's worth of talking to do in that whole week and all those weeks. Right. So, we live in this world now where, everybody's got to comment on every move of everything and whatever else. And it's like all, just all clickbait sensationalism garbage, if you ask me. And I could talk about the market and whatever else, but I don't know anything more than anybody else that has a reasonable handle on technical analysis, right? Nobody's special. I'm not managing some insane amount of funds or something like that. I'm no Paul Tudor Jones or, anybody like that. So, when there's nothing to talk about and we get 5 or 6 sessions like this in a row and we haven't done a market recap in a while. Yeah, it's nice to do that. But, doing market recaps, back-to-back days when just a whole lot is not happening, that makes it tough. And I don't think it really benefits anybody. That's why I'm always, always chirping about asking the questions that are most important for yourselves, right? Because, what's important to me regarding the software is unlikely to be important or important at that level to all you folks. So, all right, everybody, I think that kind of wraps it up on the questions here. So, my last thing before I part ways is, most of the time, if not almost always, if you're not in the trading room with Barry, you're absolutely doing yourself a disservice. Here's a link to the traders room. I can't stress that enough, that you were absolutely doing yourself a disservice. You were not in that room with Barry. During this hour that we do this, Barry's taking his break. Sometimes he only takes a half an hour break. Sometimes a full hour, depending on what he's got going on and all those things like that. But, Barry's on the mic all day long, as long as people are asking questions. Early on, he's talking scans and charts and things like that. And just, there's just nobody better in the business than Barry. That's all there is to it. So I just can't recommend you being in there enough. So thank you, Jay. You take care as well. Everybody here, appreciate all of you joining me. And I will see you all next week. Take care. Bye-bye.